Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. Yesterday, President Trump unexpectedly canceled his signing of the bipartisan housing bill, saying that the housing bill is of, quote, minor importance, of course, compared to passing the Save America Act. So does the Save America Act have a future? Does it even have a chance? Joining us to discuss this and a lot more is Congressman representing the great state of Mississippi and the chairman of the House Committee on Ethics, Michael Guest. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to talk to you this evening.
Absolutely, sir. As our previous guest just pointed out, Chairman Comer, the House did pass the Save America Act. It got out. But as we are 9 days from the 250, I think of this iconic story of George Washington on Boston Common, where two factions of his army were fighting, and he took two of the soldiers and smashed their heads together. That's what I picture President Trump doing in a way when he went up to Capitol Hill yesterday. Did he smash heads, and did it make a difference?
You know, look, he was in the Senate, and the Save America Act, the holdup on that becoming law is not the House of Representatives. The House passed the Save Act, the House passed the Save America Act, and we have sent both bills to the Senate, and at this point the Senate has either been unwilling or unable to act on either piece of legislation, which would help bring, I believe, integrity to our election process. And look, the rules in the Senate, I know, are different than the House, but the president is extremely frustrated. I think he expressed that frustration yesterday to the members of the Senate, and he reminded them that, look, he is the commander-in-chief, that this is his number 1, 2, and 3 top priority between now and November, and it's time that the Senate get in line, find a way either through reconciliation or some other process to get the Save America Act passed to prevent voter fraud in November.
Yeah, such an important moment and such a tenacity fighting for it, which I think is what the base of the Republican Party probably wants from their president, fighting and not giving up or shrugging their shoulders. I want to turn to something. You serve on Homeland Security. You oversee the Border Security Subcommittee, which is so important. Today, 2 big rulings in the Supreme Court affirming the ability of the president to get illegal aliens out of our country. Meanwhile, and also we got a major FIFA tournament, great security all around the country, and yet when it comes to an oversight hearing, Democrats want to spend all their time on stunts like we saw today. How do they not care about the security of this country to ask important questions?
You know, I was in the hearing you spoke about earlier today in the appropriations hearing, the subcommittee on Homeland Security. Secretary Mullen was there. Secretary Mullen testified. It was easy to see how Democrats were cherry picking certain stats, certain things that they wanted to try to attack the secretary on. They wanted to try to attack the secretary on the fact that, under this administration that he's not been able to account for children. But he admitted that, look, most of the children that were lost were not under his watch, but were under the watch of the Biden-Harris administration. He and the men and women that served had been able to rescue some of those children, both male and females, from being sex trafficked across the country. It was not something that any Democrat talked about when Secretary Mayorkas was head of Homeland Security, when President Biden was in charge of the open border policies, but now they're wanting to try to use that as a way to criticize Secretary Mullen. He also received criticism today from the fact that there have been individuals who have died in the custody of Homeland Security. And Secretary Mullen was quick to point out that number who have died in the custody, in federal custody, is less than 0.1%. That question was being asked by a representative from Illinois, and he contrasted the medical care that these individuals get in federal custody versus the medical care that they get in state custody. He compared the death rate in federal custody to the death rate in the state of Illinois, and the numbers were striking. So again, Democrats are trying to cherry pick certain statistics to attack the Department of Homeland Security, and I think Secretary Mullen is doing a great job of making the argument as to the incredible work that they are doing. He also addressed the FIFA World Cup. We know that we are 2 weeks into the World Cup games, that there are 11 different host cities that are hosting across the country, and so far those games have gone off flawlessly, and I give a lot of credit to Secretary Mullen and the men and women who serve under his command.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, there was another pivotal decision that came from the Supreme Court this morning, again ruling in favor of the Second Amendment. This time it was from blue states, specifically Hawaii in this case, trying to rule in the wake of Bruin that there are certain places, private businesses, but publicly trafficked, that can restrict gun carriage in their business. At the same time, you have President Trump, who is pushing for national concealed carry reciprocity. President Trump has done a lot to push this. You hail from Mississippi, a state that very much values the Second Amendment. Duck hunting in southern Mississippi is some of the best in the world. Talk to us about what it would take on the congressional side. Legislatively, what would it take to actually get concealed carry reciprocity?
You know, that legislation has been introduced multiple occasions. We've co-sponsored that legislation. I know Andrew Cloud of the great state of Georgia. This is something that he is extremely passionate about. And look, this is common sense legislation that we should be able to get out of the House, get over to the Senate. The Second Amendment, look, it is the law of the land. And you're right. You talk about a state like Mississippi. While a rural state, we are a state where hunting is a key part of our culture, whether it be duck hunting, deer hunting, pheasant hunting, any type of hunting across Mississippi. You will see that a large number of a large percentage of our populations participate in that type of sporting event. But look, being able to conceal carry, that reciprocity to once you get your concealed carry in your home state, like I have in the state of Mississippi, I should be able through reciprocity to apply here in D.C., pay a nominal fee, and to be able to have that recognized not just here but across the country. That is something that is important to the president. He has been a huge advocate of Second Amendment rights, and it's something that we will continue to press in Congress, particularly in the House, and it would be something that I hope between now and the end of this congressional session that we could get to the Senate, and then again, hopefully the president can use that bully pulpit like he has with the Save America Act to get that through the Senate and across the finish line.
So I want to turn to some important work you and your colleagues did, the No Aid for Go Students Act, which seized on a fraud scheme in California and other places that we saw all across this country. Tell us a little bit about the legislation and the success so far in the House.
Yeah, you know, the president campaigned on promises that he was going to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. We know of the incredible work that DOJ has been able to accomplish. This kind of came to light as part of those DOJ investigations. It involves individually who fraudulently apply for student loans between 2019 and today. So during the last 6+ years, we've been able to identify $350 million in fraudulent claims that have been paid out. Last year alone, there was attempts to defraud the government of over $1 billion. Much of that fraud was caught before those funds were paid out. And so this just mandates something that is common sense, that once those applications are made, that they must be properly reviewed. If there are any questions that pop up during that review process, that there's an in-person interview, an in-person requirement that the person applying for the aid comes in person, that they present proper identification, just as we hope to see under the Save America Act, to show that they are who they are and that they're properly enrolled in the university that they are applying for aid. Again, this is just the attempt for Republicans to make sure that the tax dollars that all Americans pay in, that those tax dollars are spent appropriately and that those tax dollars are not being stolen or misappropriated.
Imagine that. Congressman and the chairman of the House Ethics Committee, Michael Gesser, thanks so much for the common sense work you are doing on Capitol Hill.
Thank you so much. Good talking to you.
Absolutely, sir. All right, everybody, coming up next is the Democrat Party being taken over by socialism. It sure kind of seems like that way with these primaries. We're going to talk about that on the other side.
Hey, America, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that Medicare is a confusing mess. In fact, it's usually the sharpest people I know who tell me they're completely overwhelmed by the system between Part A, Part B, supplements, and Advantage plans. Trying to figure it all out on your own is practically a full-time job, just to avoid making a costly mistake. The truth is, you've worked hard your entire life, and you shouldn't have to navigate a bureaucratic maze just to get the healthcare coverage you've earned. You deserve better. That's exactly why I trust my friends at AMAC. They're the conservative alternative to AARP, with over 2 million members, myself included, all across this country. When you call AMAC, you aren't getting a high-pressure sales pitch. You're getting an experienced, licensed advisor who will walk you through every option and give you real, honest help, because they actually share your values. Don't let the confusion keep you guessing. Cut through the noise today. Call 800-901-8893 or visit amac.us/just news. That's 800-901-8893 or amac.us/just news.